There is absolutely no surprise that Outriders has lost 75% of its concurrent players on Steam ever since the release of the Worldslayer expansion, and it's because they are doing the same thing again. They are just wasting our time. They've taken our money, they just chuck massive lists of bug fixes together just to make it look as though they're bothering with the game properly, and that is it. Another thing I noticed is with this game, for every positive that comes along, there's always a negative too. As an example, item locking is now a feature in the game. Obviously it should have been there at launch, but at least it's finally in the game. However, that being a positive, Mage's Rage has been nerfed. And then another example, we now have extra quick mark options, so if we want to get rid of specifically Apocalypse gear, we can now do so. But at the same time, again, another mod has been nerfed, being First Things First. And then what we're going to do, make sure you stick around until the end of the video because there's a lot of interesting stuff in this. We are going to go through, I've basically had a look through the patch notes, both the general bug fixes and the balancing changes. I've taken the best parts out, so we're going to go through them. And what I'll do is I will leave it linked in the description, or both of the actual threads they've had to do too because it's such a big list, even though there's not something to show off about. What I'll do is I'll leave them both linked in the description if you want to read through them yourselves. And one of the biggest problems in the game since the release of the Outriders Worldslayer expansion is the Apocalypse tier grind. So now, starting from Apocalypse tier 20, the grind has been reduced by 10%. Because you know, when you get to Apocalypse tier 35 or whatever and you need to get 1.2 million XP, oh no, there's only 1,080,000 XP you need now. It's such a big difference. It's really going to take away from that grind that everyone is complaining about. What they should have done is from tier 15 up to tier 30, 10%, from tier 30 to tier 40, 20%, or something like that. Actually balance it properly. Something this company, studio, whatever, seems to fail to do every single time. And now listen to this one for interesting. The amount of anomaly extract gained in Taria Gratar's troves has been increased by 500%. Yes, you heard me right, 500%. So it's only a tiny little increase. And it shows it was clearly well balanced during all their testing, and when they run the betas for the expansion and everything, they tested it so well, they increased it by 500%. And now, starting at item level 50, the anomaly extract costs that are required to upgrade gear has been reduced by a whopping 5%. In my opinion, that should have been 10% because a lot of players have complained about anomaly extract. I know you can get it in an abundance when you get to higher tiers, but at the start, going through the lower Apocalypse tiers, it's a nightmare to level up your gear. And that 5% I really don't think is going to cut it. And then there's even more good news for the players of Outriders Worldslayer. Expedition rewards have been increased in order to make expeditions feel more viable alongside Taria Gratar. Now that is only if you could actually get into a match with people running expeditions and not sitting at the camp, or when you do get into one of the matches, if the Apocalypse tier wasn't between 3 and 5 tiers lower than yours, that would be perfect. The gameplay you're seeing in the background, that is me constantly searching, trying to get into an expedition. I get into one, it's 3 tiers lower, and then actually at the end, I don't know if you guys will see that part of it, but I searched for a match, for an expedition match with a random team. I got into the Outriders camp, the player was running around, and I started shooting at them as if to say, please start an expedition, and they started shooting back and messing around, and then another player joined, so we had a full team. This player goes over to the expedition table and proceeds to stand there for, I'm not exaggerating, around 10 minutes before I just got fed up and left. I even sent them a message saying start an expedition, to no reply. I don't know what they were doing, but it wasn't playing Outriders. In fact, you would have seen the gameplay. I'll make sure I chuck it in at that part so you can actually see it. Another thing on these lists is that there are a load of bug fixes and balancing changes. As I said, the lists are massive, links will be in the description, and there are only 2 threads because of how much random unnecessary stuff they've actually done. And then we get into the meat of it, Mage's Rage, the first part of the meat. So with Mage's Rage, they fixed a bug that was causing unforeseen issues with the amount of stacks and the anomaly power calculation. Don't get me wrong with this, I absolutely love it when something is broken broken and developers fix it, but it's the way these developers do it that doesn't make any sense. I will explain as we get into this. But not only that, I don't like it when they go and nerf stuff, especially when the game is specifically PvE. There's not a single bit of PvP in this game, and they still nerf stuff into the ground. But they also fixed a bug that was preventing stacks from dropping away as intended when players swapped weapons with Mage's Rage. So the explanation for it: Mage's Rage provided over twice of what it was supposed to give in terms of anomaly power. This change sets the mod into the right place power-wise. While this change may feel significant for any players who were exclusively relying on Mage's Rage, our overall balancing has ensured that not all the excess power has been lost. Rather, it has flowed into other mods and combinations in order to provide a greater spread of viable builds. So okay, fair enough, they've nerfed it. It was very, very powerful, but wait, they haven't just completely nerfed it. They have done something else to make sure it's a little bit better balanced. We'll get into that stuff. The next part is Dark Sacrifice and also Killing Spree. They were nerfed too hard with the launch of Worldslayer, so they've restored some of the power that they have lost, or what they did lose. So instead of focusing on important things leading up to the release of Worldslayer, they were busy balancing stuff, which they failed at, because some things were incredibly overpowered, like Mage's Rage, and some things absolutely sucked. And at the same time, they disabled easy anti-cheat because they couldn't get it to run with the expansion. And this company has a right to charge, how much did they charge for Worldslayer? I paid £30 for the expansion. And they think they've got a right to charge that amount of money and get away with it and everyone be happy with what they have released as an expansion. I feel sorry for everyone that purchased into this. They really did a good job as usual as covering things up and just letting them slowly reveal themselves. And then let's get into the next one. First things first. So if we take a little look at this one, they reduced the armor piercing value from 50% down to 30%, so a 20% decrease. Their explanation is, we previously increased the value on First Things First, but this had led to the overbearing gameplay patterns of players intentionally not shooting guns at all. We tackled this to an extent when reworking Fortress last November. With that in mind, we have reduced the value of First Things First to encourage more active gunplay, as we want players to go into combat thinking about what they're doing, rather than relying on stat sticks and skill spam. So who are you to tell me that I have to shoot my guns? What if I don't want to shoot my guns? What if I want to have an anomaly power build where guns are not shot? I don't want to use guns, I want to use my skills and spam them. I'm playing PvE, there shouldn't be a problem with that at all. But they nerfed it and took 20% off the armor piercing value because players were not shooting their guns. And people still, for some reason, defend things like this. And then what we're going to do now is jump to the bottom of the balancing changes. Anomaly power class nodes. They have increased the anomaly power value from 10% up to 15%. Their explanation is, as part of our compensation for power vacuum created by fixing Mage's Rage, we are amplifying the class nodes to return part of the power lost. So they nerf a mod, and then they buff class nodes, which essentially takes a big portion of the nerf away. So what was the point? Why not leave the anomaly power class nodes as they are and just don't hit Mage's Rage as hard? But then we get into something even more stupid. Weapon damage class nodes. Increased weapon damage value from 8 to 15%. So that's a 7% increase. Their explanation, this change is intended to bring firepower builds across all classes in line with anomaly power builds. So you buff the class nodes for anomaly power from 10 to 15%, 5% increase. You then go and do the same thing to weapon damage class nodes, but from 8 to 15%, so a 7% increase. So there is a 2% difference. They are bringing firepower builds up by 2%. It makes absolutely no sense why they did the anomaly power class nodes if they want to bring weapon damage or firepower builds closer to anomaly power. This is honestly the most stupid patch I've seen. It is not worth your time whatsoever, Because all you're going to do is go on the game, and more than likely the build you've been running is not going to work anywhere near as good. But I mean, if you've got to find some positive, you're going to go on the game now. You're going to be able to run oh wait, no, you can't run expeditions because the matchmaking doesn't work properly. So you're going to be able to go in your inventory and lock all your gear, and you're going to be able to quick mark apocalypse gear for dismantling separately. That's pretty much all you've got. There's other balance changes and stuff, but they're not worth it. What is the point of taking a look at things I don't use? So on my Devastator, I enjoy using Golem, I enjoy using Gravity Leap and Earthquake. And then you look at the category for the Devastator balance changes, and there's nothing in there that I would really like to use. It's just a load of random stuff they've chucked together in a patch. They've made these patch notes massive to try and encourage players to jump back into the game because they've lost 75% of their players already, and it's just not going to work. This stuff is not going to cut it. I sat there for so long trying to get into a match to play an expedition, and it just didn't work. I got one game in 25 minutes of trying. That match lasted about 3 or 4 minutes because I was halfway through when I actually joined, and it was not worth it one bit because the player was 3 apocalypse tiers lower than I was. But check this video out if you want to see more Outriders content on the channel. That's going to do it for this one. I'll see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.